Stop playing pretend entrepreneur, my sister Isabella said, lifting her wine glass like she had practiced the line. The whole table went quiet for half a second. Then my family laughed. My mother covered her mouth, but not her smile. My father shook his head like I was still the shy kid selling bracelets from a shoebox. Isabella leaned back in her chair, glowing under the chandelier. Rich, polished, untouchable. Your little online thing isn't a real business, she added. I'm Marin Whitlock, 32, and for most of my life, my family thought silence meant weakness. That night, I let them believe it. I looked at the roast chicken, the crystal glasses, the framed photos where Isabella was always centered, and I was always cropped near the edge. Then I nodded. Understood. My fiancé, Caleb, squeezed my knee under the table, but I gently moved his hand away. Not because I was hurt, because I had just made a decision. Monday morning, at 7:04, I opened my laptop and emailed my investment firm. Pull the $150 million from Isabella's tech startup. By 9:12, her board called an emergency meeting, and my phone started ringing. The first call came from Isabella. I watched it light up my screen and let it ring. The second came from my father. The third came from a board member I hadn't spoken to in nearly a year. By noon, my inbox looked like a fire alarm. Nobody in my family knew I was connected to Isabella's company. That had been intentional. 5 years earlier, when she launched her startup, she refused to accept money directly from me. You'd just tell everyone you saved me, she had said. The accusation stung, because it was false. So I stayed invisible. Instead of investing personally, I participated through Whitlock Capital, the private investment group I had quietly built alongside 2 partners. Our position eventually became the largest institutional stake in Isabella's company. She never bothered learning who owned the shares. Success made her careless. At 1:17 p.m., Caleb walked into my office carrying coffee. You really did it? I nodded. Was it only about dinner?
No.
The answer came out sharper than expected. Dinner had merely exposed something older. For years, Isabella had rewritten history. Every achievement of mine became luck. Every achievement of hers became genius. The family accepted the story because it was comfortable. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't Isabella. It was the chairman of her board. His message contained only 6 words. We found something during due diligence. I stared at the chairman's message longer than I should have. We found something during due diligence. The words felt heavier than they looked. When Whitlock Capital decided to exit, lawyers and analysts began reviewing every major agreement connected to Isabella's company. That process normally protected investors. It wasn't supposed to uncover secrets. I called the chairman. His voice sounded controlled, which worried me more than panic would have. There are irregularities, he said. What kind? A series of vendor contracts. My stomach tightened. Fraud? We don't know yet. The call ended with more questions than answers. An hour later, Isabella appeared outside my office. She didn't knock. She stormed inside. You pulled the funding because of one stupid joke. Her face was red, but beneath the anger I saw fear. I remained seated. You humiliated me for years. She laughed once. Now you're being dramatic. The response hit harder than the original insult. Not because it surprised me, because it confirmed everything. Nothing was ever her fault. Nothing was ever enough. Then she leaned across my desk. If this company collapses, hundreds of employees suffer. Can you live with that? For the first time, uncertainty touched me. I cared about those employees. She knew it, and she was using them as a shield. Before I could answer, my phone vibrated. The chairman had sent a confidential report. 3 executive signatures were listed. One belonged to Isabella. My pulse slowed the moment I saw Isabella's signature. Not because I was shocked, because I finally had proof. For years, every concern about her company had been dismissed as jealousy. Whenever employees quit unexpectedly, there was an explanation. Whenever financial targets seemed unrealistic, there was another explanation. Now, those explanations were falling apart. I spent the evening reviewing documents with our legal team. The pattern became impossible to ignore. Several vendors existed only on paper. Millions had moved through contracts approved by senior executives. Each transaction looked legitimate by itself. Together, they formed something far darker. At 8:43 p.m., my father called. "Marin, your sister says you're destroying her life." I closed my eyes. Did she mention the fraudulent contracts? Silence. Then came the answer I expected. She said you're attacking her because you've always been resentful. The old story again. The family favorite. I was the jealous sister. She was the success. After the call ended, Caleb sat beside me. "You know they're never going to admit who she is." "I know. Then why keep fighting?" I looked at the report spread across my desk. Because this wasn't about dinner anymore. It wasn't even about Isabella. It was about every person who trusted her. At midnight, another message arrived from the board chairman. Federal investigators had requested a meeting. For the following morning, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Isabella standing at that dinner table, smiling while everyone laughed. Back then, it felt personal. Now it felt insignificant compared to what was unfolding. The federal investigators arrived before 9. The board chairman, company attorneys, and several executives joined the meeting through video screens. The atmosphere felt heavy, like everyone already knew the outcome but was afraid to say it aloud. The lead investigator spoke calmly. They had been monitoring suspicious financial activity connected to multiple shell vendors for months. The withdrawal of Whitlock Capital had triggered deeper review. That review exposed connections nobody expected, including transfers linked to a private account controlled by Isabella. The room fell silent. One executive removed his glasses. Another lowered his head. Nobody defended her. Not even once. By afternoon, news of the investigation leaked. Financial media picked up the story immediately. Stockholders demanded answers. Employees flooded internal forums with questions. Then my phone rang. "Mother." Her voice shook. "Marin, your sister says they're setting her up." I stared out my office window. "Do you believe her?" The pause lasted several seconds. For the first time in my life, my mother didn't answer immediately. Then she whispered something I never expected. "I don't know anymore." That single sentence changed everything. My mother's uncertainty spread through the family faster than the investigation itself. For decades, Isabella had been protected by confidence. People trusted her because everyone else trusted her. Once that certainty cracked, questions started appearing everywhere. Relatives began calling one another. Former employees started speaking publicly. Old stories resurfaced. Stories that had always been dismissed. By evening, the board suspended Isabella from all executive responsibilities pending review. She called me within minutes. This time, there was no anger, only desperation. "Marin, please." I almost didn't recognize her voice. "You have influence with the board." "No. You could stop this." I looked around my office. The walls, the employees, the business I had built without family praise, without family support, without family belief. "You think I caused this?" "You started it." I exhaled slowly. "No, Isabella." I stopped protecting it. The line went silent. For the first time, she had nothing prepared. No joke. No excuse. No audience. Just consequences. The next morning, investigators executed search warrants connected to the vendor network. Hours later, several executives resigned. One accepted a cooperation agreement. By sunset, confidential testimony reached the board. The chairman called immediately. His voice sounded stunned. "Marin," he said, "you need to hear what one witness just revealed about your sister." I closed my office door before taking the call. The chairman didn't waste time. The cooperating executive had provided internal messages, financial records, and archived communications dating back years. What he revealed wasn't merely fraud. It was planning. According to his testimony, Isabella knew the vendor network was questionable from the beginning. She approved transactions anyway because the inflated growth numbers attracted investors and boosted company valuation. Then came the part that left me speechless. Several messages mentioned me by name. The executive forwarded copies. I opened the files. There she was. My sister, writing that I would never discover anything because I was too desperate for family approval to ask hard questions. I read the sentence 3 times. Not because I doubted it, because she had understood me perfectly. For years, I had accepted disrespect just to preserve peace.
She counted on that.
Everyone had. The realization hurt more than the fraud. That evening, federal authorities announced formal charges against multiple individuals connected to the scheme. News helicopters circled company headquarters. Reporters crowded the entrance. Then my father arrived at my house. His shoulders looked smaller than I had ever seen. He sat across from me quietly. Finally, he spoke. "We were wrong about you." I waited my entire life to hear those words. Yet they brought no satisfaction. Only grief. Then another headline appeared. Isabella had agreed to speak publicly the following morning. The press conference began at 10. Every major financial network carried it live. I watched from my office with Caleb beside me. Isabella stepped behind the podium, looking exhausted. The confidence that once filled every room had vanished. Cameras flashed. Reporters waited. For a moment, she simply stared at the crowd. Then she spoke. No excuses. No accusations. No attempt to blame investors, employees, regulators, or me. She admitted approving decisions she knew were wrong. She admitted prioritizing growth over integrity. She admitted believing consequences would never reach her. The room remained silent. When questions turned toward our family, she lowered her eyes. "My sister warned me about accountability long before this happened," she said. "I just never listened." I wasn't expecting that. Neither was anyone else. The investigation continued, charges moved forward, and the company entered restructuring under new leadership. Most employees kept their jobs. The business survived. Months later, my parents visited my office. Not Isabella's headquarters.
Mine.
They saw the company I had built, the people who respected me, the life I created without their approval. Nobody laughed this time. Nobody called it pretend. As they left, I realized something important. The victory wasn't watching my sister fall. The victory was finally standing without needing anyone's permission. Completed.